Section 300.15 of the National Electrical Code requires a box at each outlet point for concealed wiring methods, including electrical metallic tubing. The exceptions listed in 300.15 through 300.15m do not apply in this scenario. While 410.16 allows a luminaire to be supported independently of a box, it does not eliminate the requirement for a box at each outlet point. Past practices do not override the requirements of the National Electrical Code. Using electrical metallic tubing as the equipment grounding conductor is acceptable according to 250.148a. Without a box at the fixture outlet, maintaining the equipment grounding connection between the luminaire and the electrical system becomes impossible, posing a safety hazard. Current leakage is a valid concern. If fixture canopies become wet without a positive equipment ground, current may leak through the luminaire, potentially creating a hazardous situation for anyone touching the luminaire or surrounding surfaces. The lack of boxes means the electrical installation is not compliant with the National Electrical Code and presents a potential safety hazard. A box should be installed at each fixture outlet to ensure the equipment grounding connection is maintained. The bottom-mounted canopy type of the fixtures does not exempt them from the requirement for a box. Access to the installation is necessary for the inspector to verify compliance. The electrical contractor should be required to provide a means of access for inspection. The general contractor should be informed about the situation and instructed to ensure the electrical work complies with the National Electrical Code. Proper equipment grounding is critical for electrical safety. It provides a low-impedance path for fault current to return to the source, causing the overcurrent protective device, such as a circuit breaker or fuse, to trip and to energize the circuit. Without proper grounding, a fault could cause a dangerous voltage to be present on metal parts of equipment, posing a shock hazard. The absence of an equipment grounding conductor and reliance solely on the electrical metallic tubing can be problematic, especially in outdoor environments where corrosion can compromise the integrity of the conduit and its connections. Section 250 of the National Electrical Code outlines the requirements for grounding and bonding. These requirements are designed to ensure a safe and effective grounding system. Bonding is the connection of metal parts to form an electrically conductive path that ensures electrical continuity and the capacity to conduct safely any fault current likely to be imposed. The connection to ground is what ultimately limits the voltage on the electrical system and provides a reference point for the operation of overcurrent protection devices. The concerns about current leakage are tied to the principles of electrical safety and the physics of electricity. Electricity always seeks the path of least resistance to ground. If an unintended path to ground exists, such as through a wet fixture canopy, current will flow through that path. Without a proper equipment ground, this current may not be sufficient to trip a breaker, but it can be enough to cause a shock. This is why a low-impedance path to ground is so important. It ensures that any fault current will quickly trip the breaker, minimizing the risk of shock. The limestone cap and brick columns mentioned in the scenario can become conductive when wet, increasing the risk of current leakage. Limestone is a sedimentary rock that can contain minerals that make it conductive. Brick can also absorb water, becoming conductive. These materials can provide a path for current to flow from the fixture to ground, especially if the fixture is not properly grounded. The National Electrical Code addresses the installation of electrical equipment in wet locations. Section 410.10 requires that luminaires installed in wet or damp locations be installed in a way that water cannot enter or accumulate in wiring compartments, lamp holders, or other electrical parts. This section also requires that luminaires be marked suitable for wet locations. The lack of access for inspection is a significant issue. Electrical inspections are crucial for ensuring that electrical installations are safe and compliant with the National Electrical Code. Inspectors rely on visual examination and testing to identify potential hazards. When an installation is concealed, it becomes impossible for the inspector to verify that the work was performed correctly. This is why the National Electrical Code requires access to electrical equipment for inspection and maintenance. The fact that the contractor admitted to not using boxes further underscores the need for a thorough inspection. The contractor's statement that that's the way we always do it is a red flag. It suggests a lack of understanding of the National Electrical Code and the disregard for electrical safety. Electrical contractors have a responsibility to stay up to date on the latest code requirements and to perform their work in accordance with those requirements. The general contractor also has a role to play in ensuring that the electrical work is performed correctly. The general contractor is responsible for overseeing the entire construction project and for ensuring that all subcontractors are qualified and licensed. The general contractor should also be familiar with the National Electrical Code and should be able to identify potential electrical hazards. The discussion surrounding 300.15 and 410.16 of the National Electrical Code highlights the importance of understanding the code and applying it correctly. The National Electrical Code is a complex document, and it can be challenging to interpret and apply. However, it is essential for electrical contractors and inspectors to have a thorough understanding of the code in order to ensure electrical safety. Section 300.15 specifies the requirements for boxes, conduit bodies, or fittings where required. It mandates that a box shall be installed at each outlet on switch point for concealed knob and tube wiring. Additionally, where the wiring method is conduit, tubing, type alternating current cable, type metal clad cable, type mineral insulated cable, non-metallic sheathed cable, or other cables, a box or conduit body complying with Article 314 shall be installed at each conductor splice point, outlet point, switch point, junction point, termination point, or pull point, unless otherwise permitted in 300.15 through 300.15m. Section 410.16 addresses the means of support for luminaires. 410.16 states that outlet boxes or fittings installed as required by 314.23 shall be permitted to support luminaires. This section is often misinterpreted as allowing luminaires to be supported without a box, but it is crucial to understand that it only applies if the outlet box is installed as required by the code. Section 314.27 further clarifies the requirements for boxes at luminaire outlets. It states that boxes used at luminaire or lamp folder outlets shall be designed for the purpose. At every outlet used exclusively for lighting, the box shall be designed or installed so that a luminaire may be attached. In conclusion, the absence of outlet boxes in this scenario violates the National Electrical Code and creates a potential safety hazard. The electrical contractor should be required to install boxes at each fixture outlet and ensure that the equipment grounding connection is properly maintained. The general contractor should also be made aware of the situation and instructed to ensure that all electrical work is performed in accordance with the National Electrical Code. The principles of electrical safety should always be paramount, and any deviations from the code should be addressed immediately. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for preventing electrical shock and ensuring the safe operation of electrical equipment. The lack of access for inspection is a serious concern that must be addressed before the project is completed. The electrical system is a critical part of any building, and it is essential to ensure that it is installed correctly and safely. If there is no equipment grounding conductor, the metal parts of the lighting fixture may become energized under fault conditions, posing a shock hazard to anyone who comes into contact with them. Secondly, without a proper equipment ground, the fault current may not be high enough to trip the circuit breaker, leading to a prolonged fault condition that could cause a fire. Thirdly, the absence of an equipment ground can interfere with the operation of ground fault circuit interrupters, which are designed to protect against electrical shock. Current leakage can occur when insulation deteriorates or when moisture is present. The limestone cap, if wet, can provide a path for current to flow from the fixture to ground. This leakage current, even if small, can create a shock hazard. A proper equipment ground provides a low impedance path for this leakage current to flow back to the source, tripping the circuit breaker and preventing a shock. The use of the electrical metallic tubing as an equipment grounding conductor is permitted under certain conditions, but it is not always the best solution. Electrical metallic tubing connections can loosen over time, reducing the effectiveness of the grounding path. Additionally, electrical metallic tubing is susceptible to corrosion, which can further degrade the grounding path. The National Electrical Code requires that all electrical equipment be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner. This includes properly supporting and securing all wiring and equipment. The absence of outlet boxes and the reliance on concrete anchors to support the fixtures is not considered a neat and workmanlike installation. Outlet boxes provide a secure and reliable means of supporting lighting fixtures. They also provide a space for making electrical connections and protecting the connections from the environment. The National Electrical Code is updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology and to address new safety concerns. It is important for electrical contractors and inspectors to stay up to date on the latest code requirements. Failure to comply with the National Electrical Code can result in fines, penalties, and even criminal charges. More importantly, it can put people's lives at risk. The electrical system should be inspected by a qualified electrical inspector to ensure that it complies with the National Electrical Code and is safe to operate. The inspection should include a visual examination of the wiring, equipment, and connections. The inspector should also perform tests to verify the proper operation of the grounding system and the overcurrent protection devices. Any deficiencies found during the inspection should be corrected immediately. The electrical system should be maintained in good condition to ensure its continued safe operation. This includes periodically inspecting the wiring, equipment, and connections for signs of wear or damage. Any damaged or worn components should be replaced immediately. The electrical contractors claim that "that's the way we always do it" is not a valid defense. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Electrical contractors have a responsibility to know and comply with the National Electrical Code. The general contractor should have verified that the electrical contractor was properly licensed and insured. The general contractor should also have reviewed the electrical contractor's plans and specifications to ensure that they complied with the National Electrical Code. The lack of an equipment grounding conductor is a serious safety violation that must be corrected immediately. The electrical contractor should be required to install an equipment grounding conductor from the service panel to each of the lighting fixtures. The equipment grounding conductor should be sized in accordance with the National Electrical Code. The connection should be made in a manner that ensures a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source. The lighting fixtures should be properly supported and secured to the outlet boxes. The outlet boxes should be securely mounted to the brick columns. The wiring should be protected from physical damage. The electrical system should be inspected by a qualified electrical inspector to ensure that it complies with the National Electrical Code and is safe to operate. The contractor should provide documentation showing that all work performed is compliant with all codes and regulations. The contractor should also demonstrate his/her work follows industry best practices. Electrical safety is paramount and no shortcuts should be taken in the electrical installation. The installation of a proper equipment grounding conductor is a very important safety component. The contractor should also correct the installations to meet minimum standards.